New guidelines of the Union Home Ministry for the extended lockdown till the 17th of May to come into effect from today. Guidelines allow easing of many restrictions in green and orange zones in several states, including opening of shops selling non-essential goods. Red zones continue to have restrictions. Centre writes to states saying movement of only stranded persons have been allowed and not of those residing normally at places other than the native places for purposes of work. Inter-district movement within the state continues to remain restricted. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend a non-aligned movement summit through video conferencing today. The summit will discuss the enhanced coordination of member states in their fight against coronavirus pandemic. Active COVID-19 cases across India rise to 29,453 with 11,706 patients cured and discharged. Death toll reaches 1,373. And coronavirus cases continue to spiral across the world. Infections worldwide cross 35 lakh with over 2.47 lakh deaths. United States remains the worst hit with over 67,000 fatalities. Hello and welcome. You're watching DD News and DD India with me, Munman Bhattacharya. Our top story. The central government on Friday issued guidelines for extended lockdown restrictions after classifications of districts into red, orange and green zones based on COVID-19 risk profiling. During the extended period of the lockdown, many activities have been allowed in orange and green zones, while red zones are seeing a limited opening for providing essential services. Individual vehicles have been allowed only for permitted activities with a maximum of 2 persons in four-wheelers, while two-wheelers are allowed without a pillion rider. In case of industrial activities, manufacturing units of essential goods, drugs, pharmaceuticals, medical devices are allowed to operate. Workplaces need to follow social distancing guidelines with staggered shifts. Construction activities in urban areas are limited to in situ construction. Shops in urban areas for non-essential goods cannot operate in malls, markets and market complexes. However, standalone shops, neighborhood shops and shops in residential complexes are permitted to remain open. E-commerce activities are permitted for essential goods. Private offices can operate with up to 33% strength. In the national capital, Delhi, the third phase of nationwide lockdown has begun with considerable relaxations. However, curbs will continue in containment areas. The Delhi government on Sunday announced that it will be implementing all lockdown relaxations proposed by the Ministry of Home Affairs from the 4th of May. As per the latest guidelines, the Delhi government offices engaged in essential services will function with full strength, while private offices can operate with up to 33% strength. However, suspension of travel by flight, metro and bus will continue in the national capital. Schools, malls, gyms and social, political, cultural and sports gatherings will also remain banned. Delhi on Sunday registered its highest single-day spike in coronavirus cases with 427 new infections. However, no fresh death due to COVID-19 was reported. As the nation has entered into the third phase of the lockdown, in which several measures have been taken to ease the restrictions as per the zones allotted to various districts, people in Himachal Pradesh's Shimla came out to buy essential items. While in Siliguri, tea plantation labourers returned to work in farms and are complying with the social distancing norm. Markets in Kerala's Malappuram also reopened, while people here are also being seen following the principle of social distancing. On the first day of the relaxation of lockdown norms in Bangalore, which is in the red zone, many people who ventured out of their homes without masks were fined by Bangalore Mahanagar Palike. Earlier, the municipal corporation had warned people that those who flout lockdown norms would be fined and not wearing a mask would attract fine of up to 1,000 rupees. The municipal authorities imposed 500 rupees fine today for not wearing masks. Scores of people ended up paying the fine, while some argued with the police and some obliged. The Bangalore City Police has also warned the people that fines will be imposed if lockdown norms are flouted. The BBMP officials said that within 3 hours, fines worth nearly a lakh have been collected from across the city. The city police has relaxed the lockdown measures from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. only. Liquor shops open today across the state. Maharashtra government has meanwhile decided to lift the lockdown restrictions in the state in a zone-wise manner. According to a government notification, shops selling non-essential commodities will be allowed to open from today in the COVID-19 non-containment zones across the state, even in red zones. Maharashtra is one of the worst affected states in the country, and it is also one of the first states to have reported COVID-19 cases. Maharashtra has categorized Mumbai Metropolitan Region MMR, Pune Metropolitan Region PMR and Malegaon regions ahead of other red zones in the state. These places are marked as even more sensitive than the red zones. Our correspondent Yogesh Kumar files a ground report.
This is Marine Drive, which is one of the big landmarks and also tourist places in the city for the people who are coming from the other states and also the local Mumbaikars, because they spend good times here, especially some college students, because many colleges are just around this area. So you can see this time this is completely vacant place. This is completely an empty place, and not only Marine Drive but also Worli Ceiling, Dadar Ceiling, and also there are some places where people generally gather now have turned completely vacant. So this is the visuals you can see, and this also shows that how lockdown is being implemented in the city of Mumbai, because we know the cases in the city of Mumbai are already on the rising, and also not only in the city but also in Maharashtra. Authorities are deeply concerned, and they are trying hard to ensure that the numbers don't go up, and the guidelines that have been laid down by the center, by the state, and also by the municipal corporations, and also some directions by the Bombay High Court time to time on different PILs. So the administration are basically trying to implement all those circulars, guidelines, and the directions by the different authorities. You can see behind me there is a police check post. Police are just keeping a close tab on the people. They are just going around. There is a bus coming on this way. So police are basically checking that there is no vehicles who are not permitted, who are not from the essential services. They don't work at this time. So basically there are a number of checkposts have been set up on this particular coastal road from the NCPA to the Girgaon Chowpatty. So just trying to ensure that number don't go up, because the rising number in Maharashtra and the city of Mumbai has been a major concern, and that is basically the things the government is working on currently right now. With my colleague Suresh Kali, this is Yogesh Kumar reporting from Mumbai for DD News.
Let's first now take a look at the latest COVID-19 updates from India. And as of this morning, active COVID-19 cases across the country stand at 29,453 with 11,706 cases. Of those cured, 1,373 deaths have taken place. And as far as the total number of cases is concerned, it stands at 42,533. As many as 20 central public health teams from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare have been formed and are being sent to the 20 districts that are reporting the maximum number of COVID-19 cases in the country. Well, the centre has deployed 20 public health teams to assist the 10 states in the fight against COVID-19, and each team consists of 2 members, and they will assist states in COVID-19 management. 20 central public health teams have been deployed across 20 districts in 10 states, while 3 teams each will be sent to Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat. 2 teams each have been earmarked for Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. 1 team each will be going to Telangana, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal. The teams shall report to senior state government officials and assist state health departments in implementation of containment measures for COVID-19 in affected areas within the designated areas. These teams shall be deployed till further orders and will submit reports to senior officials of respective states. In order to ensure faster resolution of the complaints and issues of drivers and passage of goods carriers for interstate movement, including empty trucks across the country during lockdown, spokesperson of the Ministry of Home Affairs has tweeted that the MHA control room functioning round the clock to monitor pan-India efforts to fight COVID-19. And now these helplines have been issued. Well, these numbers are 1930 and 1033. These helplines can be utilized for resolving issues of drivers and transporters regarding smooth movement of goods carriers, including empty trucks on the national highways. Thousands of students studying at Chandigarh are being sent to their native places via buses. A fleet of Himachal Pradesh's Road Transport Corporation buses took stranded students in Chandigarh amid the nationwide lockdown imposed to contain the spread of novel coronavirus pandemic. Proper social distancing norms are being followed, and Himachal Pradesh government has pressed sanitized HRTC buses into service in order to evacuate students and those without a means of transport stranded in Chandigarh and adjoining areas. These buses will be plying to different places in Himachal Pradesh from the 5th of May. Shramik trains are being operated by the Indian Railways for migrant workers, and one such special Shramik Express departed from Nagpur in Maharashtra last night carrying 1100 migrant labourers. A large number of police forces were deployed to strictly follow the social distancing norms, and it is noteworthy that migrant labourers are slowly moving from Maharashtra to their destination through special trains. This train is scheduled to reach Lucknow this morning. Railways has run 34 Shramik special trains so far from different parts of the country and is fulfilling its social responsibility of providing safe and convenient travel, especially to the poorest of the poor in times of crisis. As the world is fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, various organizations are joining hands to carve out solutions to come out of the global health crisis. The non-aligned movement is set to hold summit-level meeting this evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also address the meeting. The online meeting will focus on the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, and the virtual meeting will be chaired by Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev. The meeting is expected to be addressed by many NAM leaders and heads of some major world institutions which are actively involved in the fight against the global pandemic. World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom will also attend the meeting. India issued a demarche to senior Pakistan diplomat and lodged a strong protest to Pakistan against Supreme Court of Pakistan's order on the so-called Gilgit-Baltistan. The MEA clearly conveyed to Pakistan that the entire Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, including the areas of Gilgit and Baltistan, are an integral part of India by virtue of its fully legal and irrevocable accession. And the government of Pakistan or its judiciary has no locus standi on territories illegally and forcibly occupied by it. India completely rejects such actions and continued attempts to bring material changes in Pakistan-occupied areas of the Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir. MEA instead said that Pakistan was told to immediately vacate all areas under its illegal occupation. It was further conveyed that such actions can neither hide the illegal occupation of parts of Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh by Pakistan, nor the grave human rights violations, exploitation and denial of freedom to the people residing in Pakistan-occupied territories for the past 7 decades. Businesses started to resume in Malaysian capital today as the government eased curbs on movement restrictions for the first time in 6 weeks. In a bid to restart an economy racked by the pandemic, people were seen heading to banks, shops and restaurants, while heavy traffic was reported in Kuala Lumpur, even though many retail businesses remained closed. The government defended its relaxation despite a recent climb in infections, with Sunday's tally of 122 new cases, the highest since the 14th of April, for a total of nearly 6,300 infections. In the United States, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has said that his state would join a consortium of 7 Northeast states to purchase medical equipment required to treat coronavirus patients. Cuomo said coming together as a team would allow them to be more competitive with suppliers who sell to the highest bidders, which typically tend to be governments of countries. New York is the hardest hit state by the coronavirus. It will require hospitals to have a 90-day stockpile of personal protective equipment in case of another outbreak, as Governor Cuomo announced. The U.S. has reported more than 11,57,600 cases of the coronavirus so far, and the death toll in the U.S. now tops 67,000. Activists in California's Orange County came out carrying U.S. and Trump 2020 flags and posters to register their protest demanding Governor Gavin Newsom to reopen beaches days after he closed them because crowds defied public health guidelines to throng the popular shoreline last weekend. Orange County has confirmed more than 2,630 cases of novel coronavirus with 52 deaths from it. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed confidence that coronavirus vaccine would be available by the end of 2020. Trump, in a TV interview, said that the U.S. government is putting its full power and might behind remdesivir, a drug that has shown early promise as a treatment for the disease caused by the new coronavirus. He also said that his administration was pushing hard for remdesivir to be available by the year end. Scientists around the world are currently racing to develop such a vaccine, but most experts expect it will only be ready for mass distribution sometime in 2021.
We are very confident that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of the year. By the end of the year, have a vaccine. We're going to lose anywhere from 75, 80 to 100,000 people. That's a horrible thing. We shouldn't lose one person over this. This should have been stopped in China. It should have been stopped. But if we didn't do it, the minimum we would have lost is 1.2 million, 1.4 million, 1.5 million. That's the minimum. We would have lost probably higher than, it's possible, higher than 2.2.
Florida witnessed the nation's first socially distanced boat parade in support of a presidential candidate. Boaters carrying U.S. flags and Make America Great banners hit South Florida's intercoastal waterway to showcase their support for President Donald Trump. This is the first weekend that boating has been allowed after weeks of closures due to novel coronavirus pandemic. The state is closely watched as it is considered a battleground state in presidential elections. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has promised additional funding for mental health care services and coronavirus research. Trudeau said that he understands the stress caused by the shutdown of businesses across the country and orders to stay inside. He also announced that Ottawa would spend $240 million to help develop virtual mental health tools to deliver support digitally. In UAE's business and tourism hub Dubai, some of the mall's dine-in restaurants and cafes have partially resumed operations with limited capacity. Despite the relaxation on malls and restaurants, shoppers have been reluctant to return, with many residents also fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. Abu Dhabi, UAE's capital, also announced reopening of 3 malls with 30% capacity after adopting safety measures, including installing thermal inspection devices. However, other public venues such as schools, mosques and cinemas remain closed in the UAE, which has so far reported nearly 13,600 confirmed cases of coronavirus and 119 deaths from the virus. Each day we get you words of wisdom and advice that provide information to help you keep safe. Today we get you a special capsule on how real-time polymerase chain reaction, that is RT-PCR testing, is conducted to detect COVID-19. Let's have a look.
How does COVID-19 testing work? There are different techniques to detect novel coronavirus in the body, but the one which is widely accepted is RT-PCR. RT-PCR, or reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction technique, is being used to detect SARS-CoV-2. The first step of the RT-PCR test is to collect samples. The sample is collected from the nose or throat of a suspected person. The second step involves extracting viral RNA from the sample. RNA and DNA are the genetic materials which are unique to an organism. The extracted RNA is now converted into DNA. The new formed DNA is known as complementary DNA or cDNA. The third step includes making multiple copies of a part of cDNA. These copies of cDNA are made using a technique called polymerase chain reaction. Now this part of cDNA is matched with the genetic material of SARS-CoV-2. If there is a match, then the person is confirmed positive. This is the best method to detect SARS-CoV-2 and it is recommended by WHO.
And that's all that you should have known about RT-PCR testing. And that's it then in this edition of the news. Up next is Dr. Speak, where you can call us and the numbers will keep flashing on our screens. And you can ask questions to medical experts on novel coronavirus. You can also log on to our social media accounts, DD News Facebook page and DD News Twitter page, and ask us questions. We'll see you there in a while from now in Dr. Speak. Stay tuned.